Hello and welcome to Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business. Joining me today is Braeden Larson, who is Research Coordinator with the School of Public Policy at the University of Calgary. Thanks for joining us today, Braeden.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you folks put out a study today on abandoned wells in the province, in Alberta. So is the number of abandoned wells in this province a problem right now?
It is growing significantly. More than half of the wells that are in Alberta right now are inactive or abandoned and yet to have been reclaimed. So it is an issue and it's something that needs to be solved.
So when I looked at the numbers, I think it said 71,000 abandoned wells, correct?
Yes, 71,000 abandoned wells and 97,000 inactive wells.
And what is the reason for it? Let's start with that. Why do we see so many abandoned wells in this province?
I think it's fiscal constraints at this point. Low oil prices have reduced the capacity for some companies that are dealing with these large groups of abandoned wells that they can't fully reclaim at this point.
Okay, and what's the problem with having abandoned wells? What are some of the key issues and problems that may arise because of having this number out there?
So with our research, we focus strictly on the effects of how they affect landowners and wells that are on privately owned land. So some of the issues that it arises with landowners is that there's a risk of contamination the longer that these wells sit unreclaimed, fully reclaimed. The longer that they sit abandoned or inactive, then they become an issue. I think it's 10% of inactive wells in Alberta, based off other research, have a risk of contamination. So that's one of the big reasons. The other reason is that as these wells sit inactive, they become an issue for landowners for side reasons, such as some companies that are near insolvent can't afford to continue to pay their rents. They can't, the reduced maintenance for site and access roads. That's the issues that the landowners are facing.
Okay, what about the public policy? How does that play into this right now? The Alberta public policies.
So a lot of this is, our study is a legislative study. So public policy plays a role in this as an opportunity to change the legislation to come up with solutions so that landowners no longer have to wait on inactive wells to be fully reclaimed for them to receive their land back. They are compensated in the meantime, but a lot of these landowners, they want their land back so that they can do productive things with it, such as agriculture.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things the Alberta government, for instance, can do to address this issue?
So in our research, we found three major solutions or key solutions that can be done. The first is we address the root cause of the issue and we resolve Alberta's long-term inactive and unreclaimed oil and gas well inventory. We can incentivize closures by companies. We can place in closure timelines, for example, that can help start to reduce that number. That comes on top of already policies in place, such as the cleanup fund that we see that was provided by the federal government to Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan. And then for landowners, the solutions that are there are making changes to the compensation framework to ensure that they're fairly compensated and on time. We've seen over time that the Surface Rights Board capacity has to process complaints has created a backlog. There's just not enough capacity there. And then finally, as we move forward, we need to ensure that landowner voices are included in the reform process. They need their perspective to be included in the legislation to ensure that the property rights compact between surface owners, mineral owners, and the regulator are all fairly a part of the situation.
Okay. Braeden, I don't know, and I assume you probably didn't look at this, but I'm just curious if this is an issue in other provinces as well, like Saskatchewan, for example.
Yeah, that's outside the scope of the paper. We focus solely on Alberta. I can't, off the top of my head, claim anything for Saskatchewan or Northern British Columbia.
Yeah. Okay, then. Is this it seems like it's something that's there, but nobody really talks about it, right? And is this something that may be addressed by, say, environmental groups in the future, like and pressure being put on the government to do something about this?
I don't know if I think pressure would help. I think that there are already several groups that have already have been speaking out for landowners.
Yeah.
I know that in the past, the Pembina Institute has put out a report for landowners. I know that there's a landowner-led action surface rights group that helps landowners with going through the surface board's the surface rights board process. So there are these groups already in place, and I think some pressure may help in the future.
Okay, super. Well, thanks, Braeden, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much, and you have a great day.
You too. Thank you. This was Braeden Larson, who is research coordinator with the School of Public Policy at the University of Calgary. This has been Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business. Thanks for joining us today.